All right, my dogs. Good morning. Good morning. It's 6:32. It is March 27th. It is Thursday. Hopefully, everyone's feeling well. My name is Scott Redler. I am the Chief Strategic Officer of T3Live.com and founder of Red Dog Mindset. My question to you guys, were you ready? Were you ready yesterday to switch gears? Were you ready to say, hey, we just had a rally from Friday to Tuesday. The oscillator's back to zero. We've had a decent retrace. What's next? How do we adjust when the market's moving? If you were ready, you know what? Congratulations, high fives. What does that mean? It means your mind right. It means you're situated. It means you have multiple plans. And I gave you guys all the cool, the tools yesterday on what would have to happen for all of a sudden the market to change and go heading back to the downside. Gave you levels in the S&P, levels in the SPYs, things to watch, whether it was Nvidia, whether it was Tesla. And, everyone had the exact same amount of time to switch gears from being maybe a few leftover longs after 3 days to getting out and maybe getting short and having a big day. So anyway, that's why I also created Red Dog Mindset. So this way you guys could tune in early in the morning for, the thought process, get the mind right, get your endorphins up, sweat, win the morning, win the day, put yourself in a big position to execute with confidence. That's what that subscribe button is there. And if you have been finding value in the 630 Club for the past 5 years, right? I've been doing this since 2020. You should think about, joining and for a tiny fee and get your mind right and get your whiteboard weekends and get motivated. But anyway, you take a quick look at the chart here of the SPYs. Let's talk about what we talked about yesterday. Here we go. I thought there was potential to see 580, 585, which was big resistance. But guess what happened? After 3 days from Friday into the gap and go into a bit of a doji, once we failed to hold 573.69, the way we were extended, that was your spot to get rid of leftover swing longs. That was your spot to, hey, say maybe I'm going to put on some SPY puts. I put on some SPY puts yesterday. They went from like $1 to $3. It was a great trade. I also was long some Nvidia that I got out real fast. And as soon as I got out, I bought the SOXS, which was an ETF to be short the semis, because if Nvidia was going to fall apart, most semis would come in, and that was a good way to buy. And I had all that situated in my head because I rehearsed it in my head pre-market well before. So when things were in motion, I was ready to go. Then not only did we not hold 573.69, it then went into that gap to make a low of 567.19. So this gap for Monday is now smaller. So this gap is now here. That's where it is. So it's not even really that much of a gap. So this gap gets filled here. So the question is, what do we know now? So yeah, 570, 573, and we'll see what type of bounce we have. Last night, if you remember, futures were down a bunch. The SPYs were down 2. And now, they're playing around a little bit. SPYs right now are, up 80 cents. So, what would be a feeble bounce? Well, GME, by the way, was so stupid. they come out with numbers like that. They get everyone all riled up, and then they do an offering. Friggin' idiots. But anyway, so here's the cue. So question is, what type of bounce? As of right now, you're 569.48. So you're not even back above 570.20. So will this be an H sell setup where they bounce a bit? You could short into the first 15-minute high, then roll over and then retest this area. It'll be interesting to see. You'll watch some of the leaders, but ultimately, this spot was your spot to adjust. I was long Nvidia yesterday. I was selling some Nvidia pre-market. I came in, with a little bit too much. We talked about this yesterday in the 630 Club. I'm like, I don't love the way the Nvidia feels. I'm like, every day it's a punching bag for curbs, for this, for that, for the semis. So anyway, once Nvidia, broke this 118.92, that was my out. Maybe I even gave some of it to 118. Better to do that than hold it and go, all the way underwater until it went as low as 112. What was that? 112.71. And when that happened, I actually made more in the SOXS, because if Nvidia was breaking this ascending channel to the downside or this inside wedge, it's the leader of the semis. So you got to know what happens then next. So anyway, this is 112.71. This is 110. Right now, we'll see, what kind of action here happens. Here's the SPYs up 85 cents. What's Nvidia doing? It's down $1. I'm actually short some Nvidia. Hey, Red Dog short a little Nvidia and long some stocks. And I'm not a great short. But anyway, I got to be able to make some money the downside also, besides just getting out of the way. So anyway, down $1. I'll cover some and we'll see. If it can't rally and it starts breaking below this 112.70, it's going to bring out more sellers. And and then we'll see how it goes. But ultimately, if you want to play something to the long side with the semis down, this is a decent vehicle. I had a little options on, and I bought it yesterday. I'm still in some, so this is a spot. So this is the recent high. So maybe it's something to start putting on your radar if you think that we're going to go back and test those lows, for the SPYs. Yesterday I was beating up on McClellan because since last Thursday he's been talking about retesting the lows and the SPYs and the Qs this week, but for 3 days the market didn't say anything. You were actually able to make money from the long side. And then yesterday, if you used the right roadmap, which we had for the SPYs, you didn't have to think about, I'm just putting out a projection that we have to do this. The market finally told you, a little bit yesterday. So, I played a bunch of things to the upside and I get out of the way. Tesla, we dissected that move very, very well. Some people were mad at me, why aren't you holding Tesla until 320? I'm like, my target was 290. I bought it last Friday around 230, 228. I trimmed along the way, and I didn't even wait for 290. I got out at 284. Anyway, so Tesla's another barometer. So Tesla went to 288, didn't quite even get into this zone, came down yesterday. I tried it once, it was weaker, and now we'll see what Tesla does today. You have the SPYs up 75 cents, Nvidia's down $1. Tesla's up 244. A lot of people were playing this last night. Trump came out, did his auto tariffs or whatever he did. It's supposed to be net neutral for Tesla. Elon says it's going to hurt him a little bit also. Bottom line is, you've had this, mini sequence off the lows. Still from 222 up to 288, this isn't the end of the world. Okay, so 266, where is their intraday resistance? If you're saying, hey, you think Tesla's going to be up 250 and run out of gas, and it doesn't use gas, run out of electricity, and go red and then test this, well, you could go here to the intraday to see where there would be some resistance. So right here, actually, this 273-ish is some resistance, and then it really had a hard time with this 279. So 279 would be a spot that if it did get to, and he was saying, hey, you want to re-short Tesla, okay, but for me, we'll see. If Tesla was down $5, what I probably do just tactically from 288, I'm not in it, I'd say, hey, maybe we could buy it down $5 and it reclaims 266 and starts to build. At this point, though, that's not the case. It's, it's up a bunch, so that's that. But, I would see if Nvidia goes red to green. If it does, it might push a little bit higher, and that'll keep some of the morning strength there. Or see if Tesla goes from up 2 or 3 to red. So those are some decent parameters for, how the morning could shake out. Why is Palantir dropping? Let's see. Why is Palantir dropping? It's down $1.29. It's not really dropping because like everything else, that could have been the rally. Go to Palantir. Palantir had a nice move. I'm not in it. I was long on Friday because that's when it took back the moving average. That's when tactically it said be long. I held through this, and then I got out on this day. And then yesterday, it broke 95.08, and now it's below 90.82. So here is 89. So I don't know if there's any special news out there. I'm sure someone would know from here. So this is everybody talking on either you're watching the 630 Club through YouTube or you're watching it on Twitter. Anybody see anything out there on Palantir besides? A lot of these things are down small, that are kind of risk one. What's up, Caracas? What's up, Blair? Hoops tonight. Maryland's playing tonight. Yeah. Caracas is in the house. Kenneth is in the house. Anyway, I'm not, I don't think there's anything in particular to Palantir, but hey, there might be a little cash flow trade here. This is 90.82. It's a little bit below. I'm trying to be tactical now. You had your 3-day bounce. I will say there are people who think they're going to be making lower lows next week. The thing is just to think about, not to overly nuts with is, so tomorrow, which is Friday, there is a bit of a pension imbalance. And from what I'm being told, there's a little equities to the long side that has to be done. So if you're thinking about putting on all these puts for a crash tomorrow, it might not be tomorrow. And anyway, we always have to crash. So just be careful that if you start wanting to put puts on, I'd go out to next Wednesday or next Friday. Go out a week. And, what I might do is if we do rally today, tomorrow, because of the inflows, maybe you go out and you know, you buy the 565s or buy, you can even go lower. If we're going to retest, excuse me, which we might not, the 550 area, we're going to have to get through 560. So if you want to go out and put a hedge on or play to the downside, maybe buy the 560 puts for next Friday into a rally because they're cheaper. And then if all of a sudden things turn lower, you don't have to worry that much about the day, etc. But anyway, so we'll see what happens. First things first is 570 reject price or 573. And then again, you have April 2nd, which is fully next week. What's going to happen with the tariffs. So a lot of people were focused on the Chinese names. Me too. I did buy some Bobby yesterday. It didn't make a new low until the end of the day, so I'm still long it. It's up a bunch. There's so a little bit of news. We'll see if anything can continue to show some relative strength. I already trimmed a little bit because I added on the close. It's up $1.40. What is this little high here? This high here is 134.66. 134.66. I'm not saying it's going to get above it, but that'll be some resistance. And if it can get above that, that would be a little bit something different. It hasn't closed above a prior high in a while. It's been working lower. We had a really nice trade there. So I did buy some options into the close and some stocks. So that's helping. It's helping my morning. Yay. Anyway, go Terps. Good morning. Hood and Mr. Peter Sullivan's asking about it. Well, I will say that Bitcoin's not horrible. It's not special, but it's not horrible. So I guess that's the new special, is not horrible. So if you go to Bitcoin, Bitcoin is hanging around. So where is my little Bitcoin? Here's Bitcoin. That's not Bitcoin. Bitcoin's right here. I got to say, this isn't so bad, right? It looks like it's wedging right here. It's got its downtrend right there. Gold has obviously been the fucking jam, excuse my French. If you've been long gold and you're an asset allocator or buying fiscal, congratulations. But this Bitcoin looks pretty good. I have options on. I went out a month to buy. I bought, which options do I have on? I have the 50s. I rolled them into, so I actually made good money. I was buying options down here and I sold into strength. And then on the pullback, I bought a higher strike for less money. That's what you call rolling up your options. So you can see what I have coming in here. Like, I don't have a whole lot coming in here. This is the virtual trading floor. This is the alpha team. This is who trades real time with me all day. If you trade prop for a living and you want to be watching my positions and listen to some really good traders out there, that's that. I still have Dash on. I still have ASTS on. I have BABA from yesterday. I have SOXX calls, which means I think the semis are going lower. And I'm short some Nvidia, and I put on some April 1150s. I also, at the close, bought some March 28th 565 puts, and I still have some of these calls on, and I bought a little FXI yesterday. So, but again, I might be using 10% of my buying power right now. One day I'd like to use friggin' all of it when the time is right, but that's why I say you need to be aggressively patient. What does that mean? It means you need to be patient for your spot before you aggressively put your stuff out there. I know guys have been waiting for this short. They were spending a little bit of money short with an opinion that the market's going down. And then yesterday, boom, they tripled up and they had a huge day yesterday. Congrats to them. But anyway, this Bitcoin looks pretty good. So if you think Bitcoin's going to break this wedge to the upside, then maybe you buy some premium, some options on. So the ones that I bought was the 50-50s, because in order to get to 53, if it's going to break above this, I feel like this 50-50 is a spot. So anyway, you could buy options on IBIT, and you could be in IBIT. It all depends what you want to do. So if Bitcoin is going to have a move, Mr.'s been acting very well. All in all, not the end of the world. It just got a little extended here. So Mr. is something I would continue to look at every day because there's nice ranges and it moves. So we're in the moving business, not the parking business. You know what I'm saying? That's what traders do. So anyway, this low here is what? This is this one is 311. I don't know where I get 309 from. So let's do 311. And we'll see if it, kind of builds a little inside range here to then continue higher, but it's going to need some help from crypto and from Bitcoin. What's Mr. doing this morning? Well, Mr. is, it's only up 50 cents. So it doesn't seem like anything's in a huge rush, but Mr. is definitely a good vehicle and it's acted better, and Bitcoin doesn't look horrible. And there's a lot of news on Hood this morning. Hood, had its move. Hood had a big time move. Hood became a leader again. With their trading 24 hours, with their crypto exposure, this and that. Bottom line is, what's Hood doing? Hood's up $1. Kind of within this range. So everything to me is very tricky. As I said, I was on Fox Business last week, and I did say I think that the lows of 2025 are not in, but doesn't mean we can't play bounces, and you have to be a little bit more precise if you trade for a living. It's March 27th. The first quarter is almost over. If you get paid monthly or quarterly, you have to be right. You can't just say, hey, I don't think the lows are in and make money. You have to execute. And yesterday was the day to execute fast when the spies did break the doji from Tuesday. And I talked about this actually in my sauna during, my 20 at 520, which a lot of you are starting to sign up for. Listen, you don't need a sauna to sign up for the 20 at 520. You need a mat, you need a towel, you need some weights, and you need to listen. Some guys just, walk on the treadmill, use their stationary bike or the stair machine, and they listen to the thoughts and hear the music and get their blood flowing and think about the day. So if you're an early bird and you have nobody to hang out with, well, I'm up and early and I'm out there at 5:20, and you can also see it on demand. But anyway, so this was adjustment 1. That was adjustment 2. Now we see what kind of bounce we have here. If you look at the Qs and you want the Qs levels, very similar. The Qs broke Tuesday's low at 490. That was your out. You had your reversal on Friday, gap and go Monday, a little bit of follow through Tuesday. I'm going to post my day count rule because on day 3, you're a seller, you're not a buyer. Anyway, and then that happened. And once we broke that, the fast move usually is when you catch the people off guard. And now this could be a little bit more of the choppier move. So what's yesterday's low? Yesterday's low is 482.82. So we'll see what happens here. And that's really it. This morning I listened to my gratitude video. If you think you have it bad, if you think you're a little upset because you're not at the highs of your year or your quarter, or you're in a bit of a hole, you should think about all the good things in your life and think about things that really matter, because if you do that, it creates happiness and gives you a better state of mind, so then you can deal with the ups and downs of the tape, and then maybe you could execute with a little bit more confidence and precision. For today, you want to see, do the Qs get back above 484.40 or not, or continue to the downside? We shall see. Lulu? Yeah, Vago. So Vago is another thing that I put on there, which is the reason why I'm short the SOXS, or I'm long, SOXS, which is short the semis. Look what Avago did yesterday. Broke this lower box formation to the downside. So if that's breaking to the downside below the moving averages, and Nvidia is for sale, chances are the semis are going lower, and that's not good for tech, and that just means you have to be a little bit more careful. So you got to connect the dots as a trader, especially if you're active. As far as long term, you know what? Keep putting money into your 401k. This will help your average cost. As far as the blood on the street account, I did not, with the 5% move off the lows, take off the third that I put in, because I only do that, if I have over half in or for a new high. So that's going to stay in, and it's only going to be added to if we make, new lows for the year and extend down of, maybe 2-3%. Lulu. Oh, Meta. Meta is the same thing as everything else. Meta met my target. Everyone's like, Red Dog, it's going higher. Meanwhile, this was your low. This was your 50 day. From when on this day, they're like, where could Meta get to? I'm like, okay, Meta could get to 622 and 635. I got to 635. Hopefully you sold it there. Now we'll see what's next here. After this move, what does it do at yesterday's low of 606.61? Just like everything else, every one of these things kind of had, a bounce, all flows, and something better than others. And now it's, are we going to go up? Is it going to put in a higher low and continue, or is it going to come back down to the lows? We don't know. All you know is that 606.61 is, is yesterday's low to use if you're tactical, if you're trying to make some cash flow. And you also knew that, look at this 3-day move. Some guys got short here when it broke below 621. I was on Amazon yesterday. I got out fast. Amazon also. This was my spot, 203.56. So the narrative yesterday that I talked about with you guys at the 630 Club, and I went over with Red Dog Mindset early in the morning, is, do we hold yesterday's lows after 3 up days or not? If not, leftover longs will get out. Some shorts will press, and be careful at that spot. Happened everywhere. Wasn't an algo. It wasn't a think tank. It was just, the nuts and bolts of technicals and prior day's lows, prior day's highs, and thinking clearly and executing and moving on. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Remember, Stick Sturdy Club is only on Monday through Thursdays, not Fridays. On Fridays, you got to do it on your own. One day, Red Dog's not going to be here, and you have to make sure that you can prepare and go about your day and still make money consistently with your mind right without me. So you're learning. But maybe I do one a little bit later. Friday's just a little bit, a different routine. I have other things I have to do. All right, guys. Good luck today. About to do my 40 charts for the Alpha team. I'm going to spend the day on the radio with them. I'm going to write my note, get it out by 8 o'clock, and continue to work on my process, which is what we all do every day with gratitude and, glass half full. Listen, this is going to be a complicated, news-driven year. President wants to, bring down, he wants to take some of the froth out of the market, which is good. And Doge wants to get rid of some of the fraud, which also unfortunately hurts some of the agencies where people are doing really great things. Little tough love. Again, they say, what is this? The detox. We were up, 24% last year, 20% the year before. There's a lot of excess spending. We can't keep spending the way we are. So something's got to give, and, you got to get some short-term pain for some longer-term, solid stability. So if it's going to mean this type of action for another 3 months or so, you better be able to get used to it and handle it, profit from it, and not get too caught up and keep yourself in the proper state of mind. Otherwise, you're going to drive yourself nuts. Blood in the street account level. Well, it's not even worth talking about. JC's asked me what about the blood in the street account. So I put the blood in the street account a third. I put 25% in on this day, and then I created a third into here because I needed to close on the lows. So, blood in the street account's not happening, unless we get down towards 536. So we need to, this could be a double bottom. This could be a higher low. Who knows what this is going to be? But the blood in the street account only happens, when you make lower lows by 3 or 4%. So we would need to move down to break the lows, get it to 536, and then all of a sudden maybe, half the account will be in, and then we'll see. But either which way, I'm worried about today. I want to make some money, and hopefully you will as well. I appreciate you guys for tuning in.